Hello readers by eyes and by ears, this is Mari Chen and welcome back to my channel. Today we are continuing with the reading of Riverbay Road, Men's Dormitory Volume 2 by Fei Tian, Xiang, or Arise Zhang. And I've got a little bit more energy than I had when I'm recording this. It is still Monday from yesterday's recordings. Anyway, I have more energy to read a little bit more. So, yeah, let's go ahead and get started, shall we? We're starting at Chapter 36. As the Lunar New Year approached, it ushered in Jiangdong's coldest weather of the year, with 3 consecutive days of heavy snow that signaled to everyone that a year of hard work was finally coming to an end. And those last few days, nobody's mind was on work. Everyone at number 7 Riverbay Road was busier than they'd been at the Solar New Year. Yue Wen was finally taking a trip back to the countryside with Xiaoqi, and Chahng had to visit home too. Meanwhile, the film production crew Jinxing was working with had to reshoot due to the heavy snow, and since they were filming on location, he would be eating and staying with the crew. Suh-chun left for Singapore on his business trip before the Spring Festival, but not before making plans for the Lunar New Year with Zhang Yuwen. This left only WAY-dzuh at number 7 Riverbay Road. He had to spend the holidays alone. I might go back home, WAY-dzuh said. I should go home. Oh? This was a bit puzzling. Zhang Yuwen had noticed that WAY-dzuh seemed to have more disposable income lately and often received gifts, so he suspected WAY-dzuh was dating someone, but so far he had only seen the money, not the boyfriend. WAY-dzuh never said anything about it, though, so his roommates didn't pry. They just reminded him to be careful. On the evening before everyone went their separate ways for the holidays, Zhang Yuwen ordered a ton of takeout for dinner. As they all dug in, they chatted and exchanged updates from the past month. Why don't you come to the film set? Jinxing asked WAY-dzuh. We're filming a little mountain villa by the lakeside. It's surprisingly comfortable. Jinxing didn't think bringing one more person to the set with him would be a problem. He could just say that WAY-dzuh was his younger brother. After more than half a month of filming, he'd gotten to know the film production crew and even become friendly with Yu. He'd run the idea by Zhang Yuwen, and Zhang Yuwen didn't see any issue with it. It was the Spring Festival, after all. Nah, it's fine, WAY-dzuh said. I'm still planning to head home. If you're coming back early, you can come over to my house, Chahng chimed in. I'll give you my address. Or you could spend the New Year at my house, Yue Wen offered. Yuwen, are you coming? Yue Wen really wanted to bring someone along for backup. After all, he was taking Xiaoqi home, and there'd be trouble if he accidentally revealed the truth. He thought it might be helpful to have a friend around to ease some of the pressure. Are you serious? Zhang Yuwen asked. He was, in fact, worried about Yue Wen's trip. He had some basic first aid knowledge from back when he helped out at his grandfather's clinic. He was often treated as half an assistant at the clinic, with the other half assistant being the housekeeper, Liu Jingfang. Zhang Yuwen's momentary hesitation was enough to satisfy Yue Wen. Just kidding. You should go with Suh-chun. Will you be okay there? Have some faith in me. Zhang Yuwen didn't press the matter further. He didn't drink that night because they all had things to do the next day. After a sumptuous dinner, they returned to their respective rooms and went to bed. It was a frigid night, so bitterly cold that even the heating seemed inadequate. As he nestled under the quilt, Zhang Yuwen saw Suh-chun's message. Miss me yet? Nope, Zhang Yuwen replied, although he did miss him. As he sent his reply, he thought, when did I become such a tsundere? Suh-chun sent Zhang Yuwen a selfie. He was wearing beach shorts at the hotel pool, and Zhang Yuwen had to admit that Chahng's lessons were well worth the price. Suh-chun was about to turn 30, but his body was perfectly toned, with pecs and abs that were well-defined without being bulky. This beautifully sculpted masculine physique stoked a fire in Zhang Yuwen in much the same way that one of Jinxing's gourmet dishes could whip up his appetite. Fucking this long-legged hunk, being fucked by him. It didn't matter. Both sounded appealing. Suh-chun sent him another message. We gonna spend tomorrow night together? I think about you every day. Zhang Yuwen. Yeah. Suh-chun. Nervous? You're not saying too much today. Zhang Yuwen laughed and rolled over in bed. He bet Suh-chun had no idea what was going on in his head right now. Suh-chun. Actually, I'm nervous too. Yeah. Huh. Does he know? Zhang Yuwen thought. He sometimes wondered whether Suh-chun knew he loved him, just not as much as Suh-chun loved him back. He must have sensed it, but he never seemed to dwell on or split hairs over it. Maybe different people approached love differently. Some excited and passionate, others restrained and rational. But love was love, and it didn't matter who loved whom more. Zhang Yuwen figured that he should give Suh-chun some positive feedback, lest he come off disinterested in the chat. He typed, "You haven't told me about your kinks yet." It took Suh-chun a while to reply. The screen showed that he was typing for a long time, but when his reply finally came, it said only, "You are my kink." Zhang Yuwen laughed again. "I thought I'd satisfy your desires tomorrow. You really don't have any?" The typing indicator appeared again, lingering as if Suh-chun was struggling to find the right words. A whole 3 minutes later, he replied, "Really?" Zhang Yuwen set his phone down and burst out laughing. Teasing this guy was so much fun. "My kink is too straight," Suh-chun continued. Forget it. Zhang Yuwen. "So you do have one. You were just playing dumb that day." Suh-chun. "I only remembered later, after you reminded me." Zhang Yuwen. "Be honest with me." "I'll make it happen." He knew Suh-chun couldn't resist this kind of temptation. Suh-chun might have had more life experience than Zhang Yuwen, but when it came to sex, Zhang Yuwen had him wrapped around his little finger. Suh-chun. "A soccer babe roleplay?" "Oh my god, that's so straight," Zhang Yuwen thought. "I wouldn't know where to get the outfit for, even if I wanted to." "Don't have the clothes for that," he replied. "I thought you'd ask for something like a high school uniform. Do you like basketball players?" "A school uniform? That'd work," Suh-chun said. Zhang Yuwen was about to die laughing. "Still got your high school uniform?" "Yeah." But Zhang Yuwen didn't feel like changing into it this time. "How about what's underneath?" The typing indicator appeared again, and Zhang Yuwen knew what Suh-chun must have been thinking. "I get to choose what goes underneath?" Zhang Yuwen was sure he must be tormenting Suh-chun. They chatted for a while longer, and then Suh-chun requested a video call. Zhang Yuwen, who was playing video games, accepted the call and leaned back in his bed. He knew that he looked unruffled, and on the other side of his phone screen, Suh-chun was lying on his side with his eyes locked on Zhang Yuwen's profile. As the night wore on, Suh-chun fell asleep, and Zhang Yuwen followed suit not long after. Number 7 Riverbay Road was cleared right out the next morning as the housekeepers did a thorough cleaning in advance of the spring festival. Zhang Yuwen woke up late, around 10, to a thermos of coffee Chang Jinxing had left on the table. Jun and Chahng were already gone, having put the couplets and decorations up around the house before they left. Zhang Yuwen ate his breakfast and gave red envelopes to each of the housekeepers. He'd also prepared one for Jung WAY-dzuh, who was his junior, had yet to formally enter the workforce, and was still of an age to receive money as a New Year's gift. He walked over to stick it on Jung WAY-dzuh's door and found 3 other red envelopes stuck there already. He opened the door to the room that he always kept locked and had the housekeepers clean it. Then, he lit joss sticks before his grandparents' portraits and set out their favorite snacks as offerings. At 11:30, just as Zhang Yuwen was changing his clothes and getting ready to head out, he heard a car parking outside. There was no doubt about it. This was the most punctual Suh-chun had ever been. Zhang Yuwen dug out his high school uniform. In his youth, he'd attended one of the best private high schools in Jiangdong City, and the uniform suit was fashionable even now. His ex had all sorts of kinks, from basketball players to soccer jerseys during the World Cup, and he'd often ask Zhang Yuwen to cosplay for him. In exchange, he indulged Zhang Yuwen's outdoor sex fantasies. After graduation, though, Zhang Yuwen had rarely worn the shirt, tie, and suit of his school uniform. After getting changed, Zhang Yuwen put on his black-rimmed glasses. Suh-chun was chatting with Zheng Weize downstairs, but the moment he laid eyes on Zhang Yuwen, he fell silent, looking awestruck. A student bag slung over his shoulder, Zhang Yuwen sat on the stair railing and slid down it as if he was a teenager again. Suh-chun's breath quickened. "Weize, when are you leaving?" Zhang Yuwen asked. Zheng Weize was bowled over too. Usually, Zhang Yuwen dressed in loungewear or sportswear. Handsome, yes, but not this striking. He snapped back to his senses. Tomorrow, I guess. Can I take a picture?" "What's there to take a picture of?" Zhang Yuwen chuckled, but his vanity won out, and he let Zheng Weize snap a photo of him. "Remember to turn off the lights before you go." "All right. I'll leave it to you." "Okay." Suh-chun didn't say anything. He just stared intently at Zhang Yuwen, who pushed his glasses up and followed him out. "Gugu, where are we going to hang out?" Suh-chun was still speechless. Zhang Yuwen even took Suh-chun's hand, and Suh-chun wasted no time intertwining their fingers. He adjusted his belt with his other hand, looking awkward all the while. "We'll go wherever you want to go. Do whatever you want to do." And just like that, he's hard, Zhang Yuwen thought, amused. They got in the car. Suh-chun seemed reluctant to even start the car. He just kept staring at Zhang Yuwen's face. Eventually, he leaned over to kiss him, and Zhang Yuwen responded by wrapping his arms around his neck and kissing back. His enthusiasm knocked Suh-chun off his feet. "Aren't we leaving?" Yes, we are, right now," said Suh-chun. "Let's grab lunch first. I've already made reservations." "How was your business trip, Gugu?" Hearing Zhang Yuwen call him that made Suh-chun weak in the knees. He blushed, then chuckled and shared a series of anecdotes from his business trip. Any frustration he had when he arrived at Riverbay Road was long forgotten. All he wanted to do was finish his meal quickly, take Zhang Yuwen to the hotel, and make love. It was true. Love was the best refuge from stress. But the fact that Zhang Yuwen hadn't given in to him yet made Suh-chun crave even more. His infatuation was unbearable. For lunch, he had booked a private room at a Japanese restaurant for sukiyaki. They had to take off their shoes, and from that point on, there was no stopping Zhang Yuwen's teasing. He and Suh-chun were both wearing thick black socks, and Zhang Yuwen began by rubbing his feet against Suh-chun's insteps, only for Suh-chun to trap them between his own legs. Then, he pressed his foot against Suh-chun's crotch, and Suh-chun grabbed the errant foot and started caressing it. Zhang Yuwen was hard now, too, and Suh-chun's touch almost made him come, so he quickly retracted his foot. Suh-chun tried to regain some of the ground he had lost. "What else are you wearing under there?" "Why don't you come undress me and find out for yourself?" Zhang Yuwen retorted, rendering Suh-chun speechless. After lunch, Suh-chun drove Zhang Yuwen to the suburbs. This was a rare moment of alone time for them. "Gugu, drive slowly," Zhang Yuwen said teasingly. "Okay, but I'm not even going 100 yet." Suh-chun had sped up without even realizing it. Zhang Yuwen didn't dare distract him by teasing him further on the highway. But to his surprise, Suh-chun gradually calmed down and started chatting with Zhang Yuwen about his trip to Singapore. "Oh, and I bought you something too," Suh-chun added suddenly. "I forgot all about it the moment I saw you." Zhang Yuwen found himself touched by this sweet talk. He took Suh-chun's bag from the back seat and opened it to find the gift inside, a luxury bag. "Wow, so expensive," he exclaimed. "I didn't know what to get you." Zhang Yuwen grinned. "Can't go wrong with something expensive." For a moment, Suh-chun couldn't tell if Zhang Yuwen genuinely liked the gift or was just teasing him, so he stole a few glances until Zhang Yuwen told him to keep his eyes on the road. The luxury bag would have run him more than 10,000. It was clear that Suh-chun kept to his old habits from dating girls. Only this time, the gift he bought was a men's bag instead of a woman's handbag. Satisfied, Zhang Yuwen tried out his new bag. He was playing a high school student for the day, though, so he figured he might as well go all the way. He went ahead and looked up the price of the bag on his phone. If you don't like it, we can exchange it, Suh-chun said. Just don't throw the receipt away. I like it, Yue Wen told him, but it's too expensive. Suh-chun chuckled. He didn't know what Yue Wen was really thinking. You only earn so much and have a mortgage to pay, and you give me a bag worth more than 10,000? We're finally here, Suh-chun said as he drove into the hotel's parking lot. It was a one-stop resort nestled in the mountains, even more luxurious and modern than the hot spring hotel they'd visited, with various entertainment options. This was where they would spend the next 3 days of their spring festival holiday. Suh-chun checked in, and the receptionist asked, "King-sized bed, Mr. Huo?" "Yes," Suh-chun said without a hint of embarrassment. In fact, if he could have, he would have yelled, "This is my fucking wife!" to all the guests in the lobby. Zhang Yuwen, dressed in his school uniform and carrying a designer bag, looked like a high school student being kept by an elite patron. He sized up the guests around them, amused. "Wow," he said when he opened the door to their room. It had a spacious terrace with a hot spring pool. "This is a premium suite," he thought. Probably not the most expensive one of the hotel offers, but Suh-chun couldn't contain himself anymore. Before Zhang Yuwen could even get a good look at the room, Suh-chun took him into his arms, bent down slightly, and kissed him. Zhang Yuwen wrapped his arms around Suh-chun's neck, and Suh-chun kissed him frantically. They were both hard, and Zhang Yuwen was assailed by a familiar sensation. He was unaccustomed to being on the receiving end of a top's passionate kisses. Never mind the fact that, for Suh-chun, passionate looked a lot more like aggressive, but it didn't matter. Like was like and love was love, and that didn't change just because one of them was in a different role than he was used to. Suh-chun held Zhang Yuwen down on the bed, and they looked at each other for a moment without speaking. Zhang Yuwen set aside his bag and unbuttoned Suh-chun's shirt collar with one hand. Breathing heavily, Suh-chun untucked Zhang Yuwen's shirt and leaned in to inhale the scent of his body through the fabric. "What's under there?" Suh-chun asked. Zhang Yuwen grinned impishly. "That's for me to know and you to find out." Suh-chun unbuckled Zhang Yuwen's belt and unzipped his pants, revealing a pair of flimsy black briefs with nothing in the back but thin straps of fabric framing Zhang Yuwen's bare ass. All right, everyone, this is your warning that from pages 143 to page 150, there is going to be smut that is redacted. The majority of it is redacted. However, there is a little bit that I can leave in, and I'll try to give a little bit of information in the end if there's anything monumental that is missing. So anyway, this is your chance to pause and go and read it yourself, or just go ahead and continue in this video where we will begin in San R. Suh-chun was blushing hard, but he couldn't tear his eyes away. He lowered his head and, in an obscene gesture, planted a kiss on Zhang Yuwen's clothed crotch. Zhang Yuwen knew which buttons to hit to turn on a top, and Suh-chun was lapping it up. "I brought lube," Suh-chun whispered. So funny. He began to kiss his way down Zhang Yuwen's neck to his chest. Zhang Yuwen was enjoying himself, charmed by Suh-chun's sincerity and earnestness during foreplay. "Let me do it," he whispered back. He applied the lube for Suh-chun and arranged himself in a sitting position, thinking that being in control might help him get used to being penetrated. Suh-chun stared at Zhang Yuwen with his face beet red, and Zhang Yuwen, who was busy getting himself into position, shot him a questioning look. "I feel like I'm dreaming," Suh-chun said. He had no complaints about Zhang Yuwen taking the lead. He, Suh-chun, was the inexperienced one, after all. Everything he knew about sex between men came from some last-minute cramming he'd done watching adult videos over the past few days. Zhang Yuwen was just barely beginning to guide Suh-chun inside him when he jolted, feeling as if he'd been struck by lightning. Fuck! It hurts! So much! He felt like he was being electrocuted. But he was the one who initiated this hookup, so he had to go through with it. Zhang Yuwen wanted to give up even as he was forcing himself down. What kind of torture is this? Damn! It really hurts. He looked at Suh-chun, trying his best to school his expression, but Suh-chun was so nervous he couldn't even speak. Composing himself, Zhang Yuwen straddled Suh-chun's waist. Suh-chun grabbed his hands and pulled him toward him. "You're so tight," Suh-chun managed. Yeah. Zhang Yuwen frowned. It was so painful he didn't want to talk. He tried to move up and down, but suddenly, Suh-chun sat up, wrapped his arms around Zhang Yuwen's waist, and buried his face against his body, panting heavily. Zhang Yuwen shifted again. Still flushed red, Suh-chun kept his head down and said nothing, and Zhang Yuwen made an inquisitive noise. Sounding utterly mortified, Suh-chun said, "Yuwen, I came." Let me rein it in. Huh? Zhang Yuwen said. You did? Privately, he thanked his lucky stars. He was still in pain, and now he could tell Suh-chun to pull out ASAP. He started to push himself off Suh-chun, but Suh-chun wasn't done. He didn't want to let go. Zhang Yuwen gritted his teeth and managed to pull away. "I haven't shown you my full prowess." Suh-chun's face was flushed to his ears. "You're too sexy." Zhang Yuwen roared with laughter. If someone else hooked up with a top who finished this fast, they'd roast the guy on social media. But Zhang Yuwen had dodged a bullet. He was both amused and relieved. Suh-chun found a towel and clumsily wiped them both down. It was hard for a guy to control himself after such a long dry spell. Zhang Yuwen offered scientific theories to comfort Suh-chun. "It's just because you've abstained from sex for a long time," he said. But Suh-chun's frustration was palpable, and none of Zhang Yuwen's cutting-edge reproductive science could dispel it. After all, he had been looking forward to this for more than a month, and for the past 2 days, he'd been going back and forth between flirting and trepidation. He had a lot of time to build up this moment in his head, and then he only lasted a few seconds. Zhang Yuwen acted like it was no big deal, but deep down, he was in hysterics. "Let's take a bath," he said, pulling Suh-chun up by the hand. "Come on." Still depressed, Suh-chun got up, and they went over to the balcony in their bathrobes. The privacy at this hotel was impressive, and the balcony had a hot tub big enough to accommodate them both. By this point, unlike the time in the hot spring, Zhang Yuwen was used to seeing Suh-chun's body, and used to showing his own off to him. "You must be tired lately," Zhang Yuwen said as they sat together. "Yeah, I barely slept more than 5 hours a night, but things are much better now that I'm here with you." Suh-chun reached out to wrap his arms around Zhang Yuwen, motioning for him to come closer. "Sit on me," Zhang Yuwen said spontaneously. Suh-chun hesitated, seeming to finally realize that his partner was another guy. This amused Zhang Yuwen even more. "What's wrong? You don't want to?" Suh-chun shifted over and sat on Zhang Yuwen's lap. It was a strange feeling, being held by another guy, whose hands were roaming all over his body and caressing him sensually. He wasn't used to it, and it felt a bit like he was being controlled by Zhang Yuwen. He couldn't help but grab at Zhang Yuwen's hands, and they both laughed. "Don't touch me there," Suh-chun said, stopping Zhang Yuwen from playing with his nipples. "Why? Are you sensitive there?" Zhang Yuwen's hands wandered further down. "What about here, then?" Under the warm water, Suh-chun's body flushed crimson at Zhang Yuwen's touch. "You're pretty horny yourself," he said, deadpan. Zhang Yuwen laughed. "Name a guy who isn't." Slowly, Suh-chun grew used to the intimacy of sitting in Zhang Yuwen's lap. Perhaps, deep down, he yearned for someone to care for and dote on him. He wrapped his arms around Zhang Yuwen's neck and bent to kiss him. "Can I do it again later?" he asked. Please no," Zhang Yuwen moaned inwardly. The first time was so painful, but when he saw the look on Suh-chun's face, he couldn't bring himself to say no. He caved and said, "Oh, sure." Now that he had a chance for his second coming, Suh-chun's nerves came creeping back. "Actually," Zhang Yuwen wrapped one arm around Suh-chun's waist, letting his other hand wander indecently over Suh-chun's abs and thighs. Ejaculating quickly is an evolutionary advantage. You see, most animals mate in the wild, where it's dangerous, and they risk being caught by predators at any time. This is the first time I've heard someone use specialized evolutionary theory to console a guy who's come too soon. Zhang Yuwen cracked up. No, he insisted. I'm serious. The faster you ejaculate, the better the chances of survival for you and your offspring. So this is... Suh-chun got off Zhang Yuwen and picked him up in his arms. Wait, we're all wet, Zhang Yuwen blurted. Second round already? Don't you need a break? Fully naked, Suh-chun carried Zhang Yuwen into the room, then dried him off with a towel. After their soak in the hot tub, their skin was warm and flushed, and their firm, masculine, muscular bodies had softened. This time, Suh-chun took charge. All right then, Zhang Yuwen thought. Bring it on. I'll just grin and bear it. Who knows? Maybe it'll be over quickly again. Suh-chun entered him. It hurt, but it was more bearable than the first time. Suh-chun, finally noticing the look on Zhang Yuwen's face, asked, Does it hurt? No, it just feels strange. This is my first time bottoming. Ow! Gentle! While Suh-chun lacked experience, he was gentler on the whole, and his tenderness made up for his fumbling. He always watched out for Zhang Yuwen's reactions, searching for things that made Zhang Yuwen feel good so that he could zero in on them. Neither of them spoke, and Zhang Yuwen gazed up at Suh-chun, enthralled. Suddenly, he found Suh-chun gorgeous, so handsome it took his breath away. Why hadn't he realized it before? His eyes misted over as he raked them admiringly over Suh-chun's form. He bent down to kiss Zhang Yuwen fiercely, whispering, I love you, Yuwen. I love you, into his mouth. I love you too, Zhang Yuwen whispered back. They embraced passionately, savoring the long-awaited release. It felt, to both of them, as if all of their past encounters, every time they'd come together and parted from one another, had been building to this very moment when they were unified. In the afterglow, Zhang Yuwen's lust receded. He looked at Suh-chun's face and saw a reflection of his own feelings. He wanted to kiss Suh-chun. Even after sleeping with him, Zhang Yuwen still loved him. But Suh-chun beat him to it. He kissed Zhang Yuwen. Yuwen, I love you, he said again. Zhang Yuwen returned the kiss. I love you too. So it's true. Sexual intimacy really does strengthen emotional bonds, Zhang Yuwen thought. He was certain now of his feelings. Yep, he's the one. Chapter 37. Jiangnan City quieted down on the second-to-last day before the Spring Festival as people returned to their hometowns for the new year. Places like Jiangnan District and Xiling District, typically full of workers who'd moved there for better job prospects, cleared out overnight. Only areas with more local residents, such as Tishan Road, Jiangbei, and Riverbay, still showed signs of life. Jinxing was prepared to spend the Spring Festival on set, but to his surprise, they wrapped up early. The entire crew had been waiting for a clear winter night to shoot the final scenes. The male and female leads ice skating, and the second male lead stargazing with the female lead. And, as if the heavens wanted them all to go home for the Spring Festival, the weather decided to cooperate. They finished shooting both scenes in a single day. It's a wrap? Jinxing flipped through the schedule, hardly able to believe it. There were no scenes left to shoot. I think so. Even the producer sounded uncertain. The entire crew fell silent for a moment, then broke out in cheers. Woo-hoo! Kongyu was freezing. It was a chilly winter night, and in his scene, he wore only a sweater, sitting by the frozen lake and speaking to the female lead with chattering teeth. The female lead listened in silence. She had few lines in the scene and only needed to shed a few tears to fulfill her part of the bargain. But her trembling legs betrayed her. It's a wrap! Everyone cheered again. Shaking like a leaf, Kongyu threw his gentlemanly demeanor to the wind and ignored the female lead as he hurried over to warm himself up. Jinxing immediately handed him his thermos of hot chocolate. It's a wrap. Yay. Their cheers reverberated through Chang-hu Park. Bundled up in thick earmuffs and scarves, a bunch of people took out the sparklers they had used during the shoot to go horse around by the lake. And just like that, Jinxing's first drama concluded successfully. Let's have lunch to celebrate tomorrow, the producer suggested, shivering. Go back and get some sleep for now. It's freezing tonight. Want to warm up in my room for a bit? Jinxing asked Kong-yu. Yeah, sure, Kong-yu said. Thanks. Jinxing had been through thick and thin with Kong-yu over the last 20 days, and as a result, they became good friends. He got along well with the crew too, and during his time on set, he'd made a lot of friends in the film industry, including production assistants, script supervisors, coordinators, lighting assistants, and so on. A bunch of ladies from the marketing and communications team even asked to exchange contact information with him on WeChat. His affable personality and handsome looks made making friends a breeze. It helped that he was well aware of his place in the pecking order as a member of the production crew. So, even when he stood in temporarily as a supporting actor, he didn't harbor any delusions of overnight stardom. But his friendship with Kong-yu was different. In the drama, they played childhood friends with a steadfast bond that had lasted more than 20 years. And in real life, Kong-yu always guided him during filming, too. As a result, Jinxing was still immersed in his role and had yet to step all the way out of it. Once they were back in Jinxing's hotel, Kong-yu finally started to feel better. Phew! Jinxing was still shuttling between several different rooms, sorting out the camera equipment they'd brought back and helping his mentor with the paperwork and inventory check. The next day was set to be another busy one for him, handing the remaining footage over to post-production, checking the backups. While the actors could relax now that filming had wrapped up, members of the production team were up to their necks in work. His phone was blowing up with notifications. How are you spending the spring festival? Kong-yu asked, sipping hot water. Jinxing had been planning to spend the spring festival on set. Now that they'd wrapped up early, though, he realized he would have to go back home. Number 7 Riverbay Road would probably be empty, but spending the spring festival alone at home didn't sound too bad. Just as Jinxing was about to reply, though, Kong-yu asked, Are you heading back to spend the spring festival with Zhang Yuwen Laosher? Jinxing figured most of the production crew were already speculating about his relationship with Zhang Yuwen. It was reasonable to assume they were a couple. They did look like one, especially with Zhang Yuwen having made arrangements for him to work as a cameraman on set. He chuckled. We're really just friends, believe me. And he's already gone on vacation. Oh, Kong-yu said thoughtfully. You must be great friends. Yeah. Kong-yu had initially hesitated to get too close to Jinxing because he thought Jinxing was Zhang Yuwen's lover, which put him in a bit of a pickle. On the one hand, he wanted to make influential connections, and he thought that Jinxing might be able to formally introduce him to Zhang Yuwen and give his career a boost. On the other hand, he'd worried that getting too close to Jinxing might draw Zhang Yuwen's ire. Are you going home? Kong-yu asked. If not, you can spend the spring festival at my agency. Jiang Yofeng and a couple of girls from the studio will be there too. Jiang Yofeng was Kong-yu's manager, another young man. Jinxing considered it for a moment, but then said, Nah, I should go home. Kong-yu nodded and didn't press the issue. When's Yofeng coming? I'll text him and ask, said Kong-yu. I should get going myself. The door to their room was wide open while they talked, and the crew members were parading past with celebratory beers in hand. Some women were wearing bathrobes and shouting excitedly. Everyone was in high spirits. I mean, why don't you sleep with me here tonight? Jinxing suggested. Of course. Jiang Yofeng has been so busy today. There's no need to make him make another trip. Kong-yu was surprised, but he realized quickly that Jinxing meant he should literally sleep here. Okay, I'll text him not to come and pick me up. Sure. Jinxing was still working. He sorted out the equipment, submitted the form, and sent a message to the post-production team from his phone before finally opening a beer bottle for Kong-yu and clinking bottles with him. After 3 weeks of training, Jinxing was adept at handling the production crew's work and capable of multitasking. Because he was handsome and got along so well with the others, Wang Guotao had tasked him with liaising with all the other departments. The girls on the crew were suckers for good-looking guys, and when Chang Jinxing asked about work, people would inevitably cooperate with him. Not even the producer or director ever turned down his requests, because they didn't want to offend Zhang Yuwen. Consequently, Chang Jinxing spent every day in multi-threading mode, coordinating between the camera crew and other various teams while still finding time to chat with Kong Yu. Well then, I'm gonna grab a shower, Kong Yu said. Chang Jinxing told him to go ahead, then closed the door and went to find the director so that he could hand over a USB drive with a copy of some footage in it. When he returned, Kong Yu was blow-drying his hair. Look, we've got a sample clip. It's our scene. Chang Jinxing gushed. He opened his phone and showed it to Kong Yu, and they sat on the bed together and watched. When it was done, he flopped back onto the bed in despair. Oh my God, my acting's so awkward. You did great for someone with no professional training, said Kong Yu. What more could you ask for? You're the one who rocked it, Chang Jinxing said, deflecting. Just look at you. Your eyes are so emotive. Kong Yu laughed. Where Chang Jinxing was embarrassed to watch himself on camera, Kong Yu found it fascinating. That's how it is the first time you act, he said, and it was clear from his expression that he was reminiscing about his own experiences. He sighed. It was 2 a.m., and Chang Jinxing needed to sleep too. After a shower, he lay down on his bed, and Kong Yu took the other one. I'm turning off the lights, Chang Jinxing said. Okay, Kong Yu replied. Are you cold? I'm good. What, do you want to come over and sleep together? Chang Jinxing said teasingly, but when Kong Yu went silent, he backtracked. Just kidding. Don't take it seriously. In the darkness, Kong Yu hummed an acknowledgement. Chang Jinxing's fuckboy instincts told him that right now, if he asked Kong Yu if he wanted to have sex, Kong Yu would agree. But he restrained himself. He turned on his phone in the darkness and watched the sample clip over and over, feeling as if, like his character, he had an old friend of many years, and that friend was sleeping in the bed next to him. He had a sudden urge to call Kong Yu by the name of his character in the drama, Gu Youli. Youli, what are you thinking? Still in character, huh? Kong Yu said, then adopted the tone of the second male lead. I'm thinking, Yao Chen, that being a good actor doesn't necessarily mean you'll become famous. Yao Chen was Chang Jinxing's character's name. But things will improve if you persevere. Really? Kong Yu said mildly. But I get this sense that a career is like love. Working hard doesn't guarantee you'll succeed. It sounded just like something his character, a melancholic, jaded screenwriter, would say. They'd brought their on-screen characters back into the hotel with them. Chang Jinxing sat up with his blanket wrapped around him and looked blankly at Kong Yu. You're breaking character, Jinxing. Chang Jinxing grinned. Did they tell you a lot about me? Kong Yu asked. He still had his back to Chang Jinxing. Huh? Not really. Chang Jinxing blinked, puzzled. Not really. Kong Yu glanced back at him. I see. Why? Who's they? Never mind. It's nothing. There was a beat of silence, then Kong Yu continued. There used to be a big shot who sponsored me, but 2 years ago, he grew disappointed with me, or maybe he just got tired of me. For all of last year, I couldn't get any acting gigs. Making ends meet was a struggle. Chang Jinxing made a sympathetic sound. Did you overhear me and Tao Zhen at the back of the ship that day? Yeah, a little. It isn't easy to make it big. Sometimes, it's a challenge just getting by. Once the drama airs, things will start looking up for you, Chang Jinxing said, trying to comfort him. It's still up to luck. You're different, though. With director Zhang backing you, you can play any role you want. You can't force it either, Chang Jinxing said wryly. And I'm just here to learn. I'm not going to keep acting. So you want to be a photographer? Kong Yu asked, still not turning to face him. Whatever you do, don't become an actor. Before you make it big, you'll have to sacrifice all your dignity, and it won't be much better after you become famous. Everyone is just a plaything for the rich. That's not true. Chang Jinxing put down his phone. Listen to me. If you continue acting, you'll gradually come to realize I'm right. No, wait. Yoli. Kong-yu didn't respond. Yoli, you're just the supporting cast. Jinxing went over and touched Kong-yu's shoulder. Yu Chang-kong is the real protagonist. Right, he's the lead. We're just the supporting cast. But I'm really glad to have met you. Kong-yu glanced back at Jinxing, and they locked eyes. Carried away by his emotions in the moment, bolstered by both their 20 years of on-screen bond as childhood friends and their 20 days of off-screen friendship, Jinxing leaned in and kissed Kong-yu on the cheek. Kong-yu turned over, put a hand on Jinxing's neck, and started kissing him. Whoa, this is hot. Jinxing thought, too surprised to do anything but kiss Kong-yu back. Jinxing didn't have fucking his childhood friend on his menu of kinks, but suddenly he thought that maybe he should have. As they were kissing, though, Jinxing's senses returned to him. No, this isn't right. He fled back to his bed. We'd be making a mistake if we went any further. Yoli, we're best buds. We can't sleep together. Amused, Kong-yu turned away without saying a word. Jinxing's heart was pounding as he pulled up his quilt. I've never had a friend like this, Kong-yu said. Me neither. But after playing this role, I think I get it. Jinxing laughed. Outside, the ruckus of their drunken production crew colleagues continued unabated. It was snowing again out there. Filming had wrapped, and the show was over. When Jinxing woke the following day, Kong-yu was already gone. Most of the others were still asleep off their night of revelry. Jinxing quickly got up and went about finishing his remaining tasks. He carried the equipment back to the film production company, copied the film stills for future promotional use, and returned the form to the production department. The company was on its spring festival break, so the entire place was quiet and deserted. When his work was complete, a realization struck Jinxing. That's it? It's over? There was, at least, a rap party later that afternoon. The lead actor and actress came to offer a toast, and Kong-yu joined them with his manager. Jinxing shared a table and some drinks with Wang Bo-tao, who was still rather groggy, and the lighting crew. Afterward, someone suggested karaoke, but everyone else wanted to go home for their New Year's Eve dinner, so the idea was vetoed. As they left the hotel, Kong-yu's manager ran over and handed him a gift, a brand new mobile phone. Let's catch up again sometime, Jiang Yofeng said, patting Jinxing on the shoulder. You give my regards to Director Zhang. As Jinxing waved goodbye to him, he saw Kong-yu getting into the car and leaving. The project was over. With mixed feelings, Jinxing turned away and walked to the subway. It had only been 20 days, but he felt as if he had experienced a completely different life. On the subway, he received a text notifying him that his bank account had been credited with 135,700 yuan. He almost fainted. He checked the transaction details and found that the credit was for his wages. Then he checked his WeChat. The production crew's finance department had sent him his payslip, and it included his salary of 12,000 yuan for his work as a camera operator, 3,700 yuan for travel, meals, and other miscellaneous allowances, and 120,000 for his role as a supporting actor. Damn, actors make big bucks. Jinxing could hardly believe his eyes. He sent a message to Zhang Yuwen, but there was no reply, and he figured Zhang Yuwen was probably enjoying his vacation. What a windfall. Jinxing reined in his impulse to splurge. Besides, it was the eve of the spring festival, and all the shops were closed for business, leaving the streets empty and desolate. Even if he wanted to treat himself to a big feast, there was nowhere to go. All he could do was return to number 7 Riverbay Road. Strangely enough, though, when he got home, the lights were on. Jinxing opened the door to find bowls of instant noodles on the dining table. The door to Jung Weize's room was ajar, and Jinxing heard a voice inside. "WAY-dzuh?" Jinxing called out. Yeah." Weize was wearing his wig and in the middle of a video call when he heard Jinxing's voice. He ended the call hastily and rushed into the bathroom to remove his makeup. What was that? I'm taking a shower, Weize yelled, flustered. Oh. Jinxing had bought some alcohol and food at the shop outside the subway station, and he put it down on the table and cleared away the messy heap of instant noodle bowls and cups. Didn't you say you'd be going home? Weize didn't reply. He was too tense. Fortunately, Jinxing didn't come into his room. He stuffed his dress, black stockings, and all the rest into the closet. Unfazed, Jinxing opened the refrigerator to take a look. There was still plenty of ingredients left from the last night Yue Wen went grocery shopping, including cod for xiaoqi, frozen shrimp, and beef. He took them out to thaw, planning to whip up a sumptuous New Year's Eve meal, and sent Yue Wen a photo with a note that he was helping himself to the food and would restock for him after the holidays. He sent him a red envelope as a New Year's gift to xiaoqi, too. Yue Wen was awfully busy. He hadn't had a moment's rest since he arrived in his hometown. He'd cleaned the house, changed the bedsheets for his mother, fixed the heating pipes, cleared out the refrigerator, organized the pile of cardboard scraps and other trash that his mother had picked up from God knew where, cleaned the windows, and put up the Spring Festival couplets and decorations. He also had to prepare a New Year's Eve meal for 3 people. Finding time out of his busy schedule to glance at his phone, he asked Jinxing, "Are you home? I thought you'd be on set." Jinxing explained the change in plans. "Where's Yuwen?" Yue Wen asked. "Dunno. Prob out for the New Year. It's just me and Weize at home." Jinxing set his phone aside. Suddenly, he felt a tingle at the back of his neck, and he turned to find Weize standing at the kitchen entrance in his pajamas, looking blankly at him. "Why are you back?" Weize asked. His eyes were red. Jinxing put down the ingredients, wiped his hands, and walked over to him. "What's wrong? Did you decide not to go home?" Without warning, Weize stepped forward and hugged Jinxing. Jinxing could tell that something had happened, but he didn't ask. He just hugged Weize back and patted him on the head. Then, Weize pulled away from Jinxing, left the kitchen, and sat at the dining table and went back to his phone. Jinxing watched him for a moment to make sure he wasn't crying. Perhaps he was just feeling low. "Filming wrapped up earlier than expected, so I came back," Jinxing explained. "I thought I'd be spending the Spring Festival alone. I'm so glad you're here." "What are you cooking?" Weize asked. "Steamed fish. Maybe stewed beef for you and some stir-fried shrimp. Are you hungry?" "I just ate lunch." Weize's so-called lunch had just been instant noodles. Instant noodles were actually all he'd eaten for the past couple of days, since even the takeout delivery drivers went home for the Spring Festival. He wasn't planning on eating anything else after that bowl of instant noodles after 4 p.m. A true warrior could ride his hunger through the night. Nothing had actually happened. Maybe his irregular sleep work and the lack of nutrition from all those instant noodles were making him feel listless. Whatever it was, the empty house only made him more emotional. It also didn't help that, during their video call earlier, he'd seen Whiskey and his whole family sharing a meal. Loneliness tended to magnify 100-fold during the holidays, and the sight of Whiskey's family had sent Weize's loneliness through the roof. Suddenly, life felt meaningless. Then, at his loneliest moment, Jinxing had returned. Jinxing busied himself in the kitchen. "Were you chatting with your friend?" he asked, vaguely remembering that Weize was on a call when he returned. Yeah." Weize had ended the call under the pretext of an internet outage. Normally, Whiskey would have found that weird, but he was busy with his family reunion dinner, so he didn't probe. "How was filming?" Weize knew a little about his gig, but he didn't know that Yue Wen was the one who recommended him for the job. Jinxing grinned. "It went great. I played a small role in the show. You'll see me on TV when it airs." "Wow." Weize was a little jealous, but Jinxing was so handsome. In fact, Weize thought he was close to perfect. From the first day they met, Weize had suspected that Jinxing wouldn't be just an ordinary person forever. "Are you going to be a star? Can I have your autograph? I can keep it as a memento when you become famous." Jinxing smiled and started serving the food. Even though this New Year's Eve dinner was just for the two of them, he'd cooked up a feast. Nah, I won't be famous. That's what they all say. Jung Weize often read celebrity gossip online, so he was familiar with the paths that stars typically took. Before their rise to stardom, they were just ordinary folks. But once they made it big overnight, temptations came knocking in the form of love interests, ex-girlfriends, childhood friends. In the best case scenario, they never saw those people again. The worst, they'd wind up as stepping stones for opportunity seekers trying to get further in life. Really, Jinxing took off the oven mitts, poured some red wine for Jung Weize, and toasted him. Happy New Year. Is that the landlord's wine? Jung Weize asked cautiously. No, I bought it today. They clinked glasses. For Jung Weize, the night was bittersweet. He still loved Jinxing and didn't want this moment to end, but his beautiful bubble of hope that his feelings might be reciprocated had long since burst. Jung Weize had sensed a significant shift in his crush's life after their trip to the hot springs. Jinxing no longer stayed out later or pulled all-nighters, and his routine was much more regular. His face was full of hope when he left home every day with his bag. He had already embarked on another path, and he was leaving Jung Weize behind. The thought made Jung Weize even sadder. After tonight, Jinxing was going to fly high, far beyond his reach. Jinxing was still replying to messages on his phone and taking photos to share with his friends from the production crew. If you don't want to be famous, then what do you want to do? Jung Weize asked him. Huh? Jinxing looked up from his phone. Photography. I've loved photography since I was a kid. I still do. Are you going to keep working as a cameraman? Yeah. Jinxing set his phone aside and ladled some soup for Jung Weize. If the production crew wants me, I'll take on a few more gigs to get some more experience, but I'm considering returning to school to further my studies. He meant it. With the payment he'd received for his work on the drama, he no longer needed to worry about his next meal or his next job pandering to others. He planned to look for a university where he could enroll in a photography program, because working with a film production crew made him realize he needed more technical knowledge. He couldn't rely on teaching himself by reading books and experimenting with his camera anymore. Maybe after the spring festival, he added. I really envy you guys, Jung Weize said. Everyone has something they want to do. Jinxing grinned. I'm sure you have something too. What's not to like about being a streamer? Besides, you're still in school. Thinking about this stuff is still premature. Jung Weize sighed. You know what? I lied to all of you. I'm not actually a student. For a moment, Jinxing didn't know what to say. Maybe it was the night's atmosphere, or maybe Jung Weize was just sick of keeping up the lie. But on this New Year's Eve, at least, he wanted to be himself and say what he truly felt. Oh, to be honest, I never went to university either, Jinxing confessed. They both burst into bittersweet laughter. Jinxing recalled the time he first met Yue Wen and moved to Riverbay Road. He told Yue Wen that he'd graduated from Jiangsu University's Department of Photography. He thought Yue Wen was just an ordinary sub-landlord, but now that he thought about it, how could Yue Wen not have seen through him? Maybe he just decided not to expose Jinxing to save him the embarrassment. You aren't a photography major? Jung Weize was astonished. Nope. I didn't have any further schooling after high school. All this time, I've just been drifting all over and muddling my way through things. Jung Weize nodded. I see. The fact that Jinxing only had a high school education seemed to close the distance between them, and knowing that Jinxing, too, would lie for his own vanity made Jung Weize feel like maybe he wasn't so far out of his league after all. Same for me. I came to Jiangdong to work after high school. The difference is that I ran away from home. I never told you that, did I? Why did you run away? Jung Weize thought for a moment. I have 2 older sisters, he said at last, and ever since I was a kid, I've always wanted to be a girl. At the time, I didn't understand why. He was born into a middle-class family in Minxi County. His father was a sailor, and his mother was a housewife. His father, holding the traditional belief that girls would eventually marry out of the family, had always wanted a boy who could care for him in his old age. As the family's youngest and only son, Weize was a beloved, pampered child. His father spent most of his time at sea, though, and Weize, growing up in a family of girls, developed traits that leaned more toward the feminine side. This made him a prime target for bullies throughout his elementary and middle school years. Jinxing listened attentively without interrupting. Starting in 9th grade, I took titty skittles for a while. Weize explained. Oh, those are... I know what that means. Jinxing was familiar with the term. It was slang for hormone replacement therapy. Lots of trans feminine people who were unable or unwilling to have surgery took estrogen to make some of their features look more feminine. They found me out in high school, Weize said. I couldn't get my hands on them anymore, and I gave up in 12th grade. I didn't want to be a girl anymore, and being a guy wasn't so bad. Sometimes I feel like I'm neither male nor female. Don't say that. Jinxing smiled at him. You're you. He racked his brain for words of comfort to offer Weize. If Zhang Yuwen were here, he probably could have come up with something heartwarming and impactful, but Jinxing couldn't. He could only lend a sincere, listening ear. I suppose I realized it was easier to survive in this society as a boy, Weize continued, but I failed the college entrance exams and got into a big fight with my family. And then you came to Jiangdong. Jinxing finished for him. Yep. I still remember the guy I liked in high school. He was straight, right? Weize blinked. How did you know? Seriously? You've always been one for straight guys, Jinxing said with another smile. He was a bad boy who liked to fool around, like you. He had several girlfriends. I really worshipped him back then, and I think he had genuine feelings for me, even though he hit me occasionally when we argued. Jinxing was offended to be compared to this guy. He would never raise a hand to anyone, no matter the circumstances. Whether the relationship was heterosexual or homosexual, it didn't matter. Violence was an absolute no-go. So I always believed that it was possible to turn straight guys gay, Weize added. But in the end, they'll leave you, Jinxing reminded him. Weize said nothing. Did you break up in the end? Of course we did. Maybe he felt I wasn't a real girl. But half a year after we broke up, I heard that he got in a tailgating accident on his motorbike. He died. For a moment, Jinxing didn't know what to say. Eventually, he asked, So your parents and sister don't know where you live? Yeah. All they know is that I'm in Jiangdong. Jinxing glanced at his phone, his meaning clear. You don't even contact them during the Spring Festival? But every family had their own way of getting along, so he didn't voice those words. How about you? Weize asked with a hint of anticipation. Jinxing hesitated. Weize wanted to trade secrets so that they could get to know each other better, but the thought of sharing his most painful past was a little discomforting. Chapter 38. My parents divorced when I was a kid, Jinxing began. My dad was a violent guy who hit my mom a lot. That was why Jinxing strongly opposed any form of violence. Oh, I see, Weize nodded. After they divorced, I lived with my father, but he left me to fend for myself once I graduated from high school. He wouldn't let me enroll in university. Your dad must have been very handsome, Weize remarked. Yep, he was a womanizer. And so am I, Jinxing thought self-depreciatingly. Why do we grow up to become the people we hate? Weize looked blankly at Jinxing, who continued. There's nothing really that memorable about my childhood, actually. The things that left a deep impression were when I helped out in the kitchen of a restaurant, or sometimes I asked my dad for money after school. Life got much easier after I started working. You must have had a lot of admirers. Yeah. When he was still at home, he used to ask his father for money. After he left home, he asked his boyfriends or girlfriends for money instead. Nothing seemed to have changed in his life. What happened later? Weize prompted. What else? For a moment, Chang Jinxing was going to say, "And then I slept around. Luckily, I didn't get HIV." But instead, he said, "Then I realized that I was very popular. Sorry, am I being too—" No, you're really handsome." So, things fell into my lap, and I took them for granted. That's just how people are, right? Between the ages of 18 and 25, I never lacked for girlfriends or boyfriends. Chang Jinxing never planned to have his girlfriend spend money on him at first, but eventually, he realized that his life was much easier when he lived off of women. "What I mean is, when did you realize you liked guys?" Weize asked. He was curious. "I had an ex-girlfriend whose boyfriend liked me too," Chang Jinxing said. "After I broke up with the girl, he started pursuing me." "He must have been very handsome too, huh?" "Yeah," Chang Jinxing said, though he was leaving some things out. The guy had been his junior in high school, and they'd known each other for a long time. Actually, he was a good friend of mine. We knew each other for 8 years, and when he found out that I got together with his ex-girlfriend, he reacted very strongly." "Oh, then you went from rivals to lovers and ended up together?" Chang Jinxing looked a bit lost. Even after all this time, he hadn't quite sorted out the messy tangle of his feelings about the whole thing. "His girlfriend liked me first," he explained. It's not like I could do anything about it, but he was angry, furious in fact. We gradually drifted apart after high school, but we were close in junior high. Yeah, he was my best friend in junior high." "Where is he now?" "Abroad. His family is pretty wealthy. He ended up going to Australia. Now that I think about it..." Chang Jinxing fell silent, remembering bits and pieces from the past. Did he really like that girl? It didn't seem like it now. Perhaps, subconsciously, he'd just been trying to maintain some connection to his friend. He'd never really affirmed his own sexual orientation or gone through a whole self-discovery process the way Zhang Yue Wen, Yue and the others had. "Who topped?" Weize asked. "We switched. Let's go set some fireworks later. I brought home some leftover sparklers from the production crew." "Sure, but make sure to save some for when we hang out with everyone else on the 6th day of the Lunar New Year." They finished their dinner, and as Chang Jinxing cleaned up in the kitchen, he reminisced about his past. After he broke up with that girl, his childhood friend had invited him out so that they could chat. They sat beside a flower bed, drinking and talking about their junior high school days. His friend was still angry, though, and when the conversation turned to the topic of Chang Jinxing kissing the girl, Chang Jinxing lost his patience and blurted out, "What's the deal about a kiss?" He turned his head as if to say, "You want to try it too?" The next thing he knew, he had his arms around his buddy and was kissing him. The kiss spiraled out of control, and under the influence of alcohol, Chang Jinxing brought his friend back to his place. They had already kissed, so why not take a step further into forbidden territory, right? His friend cried and moaned as Chang Jinxing topped him, and Chang Jinxing generously let his friend top him in return. In life and in bed, they clicked surprisingly well. They understood each other well thanks to years of friendship, and with their awareness of each other's boundaries, they were able to avoid most conflicts. Their similar experiences and living environments meant they had a lot in common and their values rarely clashed. Before Chang Jinxing knew it, they'd been together for over half a year. The other guy even bought Chang Jinxing a camera, which Chang Jinxing used for a long time before it was stolen, just like his heart. Then his lover went abroad, and their romance, which could have lasted a lifetime, came to an abrupt end. Chang Jinxing handed the sparklers to Weize, who happily set them off in the garden. Maybe it was past time for him to reach out, he thought. He made an overseas call. "Hello?" The voice on the phone sounded a little tired, but, hearing it, Chang Jinxing's heart skipped a beat. They hadn't spoken in 7 years. When he didn't respond, the voice became more alert. "Jinxing? Is that you? Jinxing?" Tears pricked Chang Jinxing's eyes. Perhaps meeting Kong Yu and sharing a handful of scenes with him made him nostalgic for the past, shedding light on unspoken feelings that had long since dissipated. The sadness hidden behind subtle expressions, the true meaning of unspoken words, they all became clear to him. Jinxing, the voice called again. Yue Wen, Chang Jinxing said finally. It's you, Yue Wen exclaimed. It really is you. Chang Jinxing chuckled. You didn't save my number. Why am I not surprised? You're the one who changed it, said Yue Wen. Where are you? What are you doing? Happy Lunar New Year. Not doing anything much. I just wanted to say best wishes for the new year. Where are you? After a moment's thought, Chang Jinxing told him that he was in Jiangdong. Yue Wen asked how he'd been doing all these years, what kind of work he'd been doing, and if he'd been well. So Chang Jinxing stood in the garden and chatted with him. You must have settled down by now, right? Yue Wen asked. Are you married or on your way there? Chang Jinxing looked at Zheng Weize, who was lighting up sparklers in the garden. Zheng Weize turned and smiled at him. No, Chang Jinxing said, amused. Nope, not married. I would have figured you'd have a cute daughter by now. What? That's so not me. I'm still single. How about you? I'm living with Chen and Zheng. You two. Chang Jinxing was stunned. Chen and Zheng was a bosom friend of their mutual ex-girlfriend. No, Yue Wen explained. She's just staying with me and paying me rent. She's doing her graduate studies in Melbourne. Oh. I'm still single, Yue Wen added. A moment of silence passed between them. Then, suddenly, Yue Wen laughed. Let's do a video call. I want to see you. Chang Jinxing switched over to the video call interface. Yue Wen was in pajamas, turning on the lights in his study and looking like he'd just woken up. He was more mature than Chang Jinxing remembered. For a moment, they just smiled at each other wordlessly. Yue Wen's eyes looked a little moist. You're even more handsome now, Yue Wen told him. Well, I've gotten old and ugly. Chang Jinxing burst out laughing. Come on, you're still very handsome, really. Who's that? Zheng Weize asked, popping up in the video beside Chang Jinxing. Yue Wen said hello to him. He's my good friend, Chang Jinxing filled in. He sat down in front of a lounge chair at the side of the garden. At the words, good friend, Zheng Weize slipped back into his room, having already lit all the sparklers. It's cold outside, Yue Wen admonished. Don't catch a cold. All right. You're just too picky, Yue Wen said, teasing him from thousands of miles away, on the other side of the world. That's why you're still not married. Chang Jinxing laughed. You're describing yourself. Snow began to fall around him. Each tiny flake drifted through the air to the sporadic sound of firecrackers going off in the distance. He and Yue Wen studied each other's faces, trying to recapture the feelings of yesteryear. After a moment, Yue Wen smiled. Do you like guys or girls now? I'm open to both. You? Same here. Yue Wen's face reddened, and he added self-depreciatingly. And as a result, it works out with neither. Another brief silence fell upon them. Chang Jinxing asked, Are you working in Australia? Yeah. I'm a product manager at a software company. How about you? Yue Wen asked. Chang Jinxing shared some anecdotes from his time with the production crew, and Yue Wen listened, nodding. That's great. I'm still far from a competent professional, so I'm thinking of going back to school. Man, this is what happens when you don't study hard. Yue Wen paused for a moment. It's okay. A lot of people who work in the arts aren't formally trained. If you're up for it, though, you could come to Australia for further education. Huh? Are there photography programs in Melbourne? There are plenty. Want to give it a try? Send me your portfolio and I can ask around at the schools for you. You don't have to go through an agency. But language-wise, they have preparatory courses here for learning the language. English isn't hard to learn. You'll pick it up quickly in daily life. How much would it cost? It must be expensive, right? Not at all. If you're serious, you can even apply for scholarships. Let me think about it, Chang Jinxing said. I mean, life would be pretty different there. Yeah, that's a major consideration. Yue Wen nodded. He didn't keep trying to persuade him. They were adults now. If Chang Jinxing decided to study abroad, he would reach out to Yue Wen. Jinxing changed the subject. So, how's Chen Anjuan doing? Same old, you know. She used to have a crush on you. No way. Jinxing exclaimed, deliberately dramatic. Awkward. Half the girls in our class had a crush on you. Several of them are in Australia now, actually. We're thinking of organizing a small class reunion. As the night wore on, Jinxing rediscovered a lot of memories from the past. He wasn't the only one taking a walk down memory lane either. Yuwen held a sleeping Xiaoqi and listened as his mother recounted stories from his and his brother's childhood. Weize returned to his room, put on his wig, applied his makeup, and logged on to chat about old times with Whiskey, who had just finished his New Year's Eve dinner. Chahng was keeping his younger sister company as she set off fireworks in the streets when he bumped into a family of his junior high school classmate and began chatting about their student days. Suh-chun, by contrast, was sleeping like the dead. He had slept the same way the night before, when they were in bed after their dinner. At one point, Yuwen genuinely felt the need to check on him to see if he was breathing. On New Year's Eve, they ate breakfast and made love again, and then Suh-chun went back to bed, where he slept until it was time for New Year's Eve dinner. He woke dazed and disoriented, as if his body was trying to catch up on all the sleep he'd missed in the past year. For his part, Yuwen reminisced about celebrating the New Year as a child, when his grandparents took him to the riverside to set off fireworks. Lost in their memories and the flashes of fireworks, everyone ushered in another cycle of the 4 seasons. And right on schedule, spring arrived, to the tranquility of thawing river water weaving through fragments of ice. Well, all right, everyone. We have officially finished the chapters for today, and I think I have a lot to say. So let me gather my thoughts, pull up my notes, and I'm going to go back to the beginning of the chapters. So we have Yuwen finally coming to the realization himself that he does love Suh-chun. Of course, he thinks he doesn't love Suh-chun as much as Suh-chun loves him, but that's irrelevant. He realizes that, and I'm saying that. Like, I don't know, measuring love is just kind of like, there's no need to do it. So I'm glad he didn't spend time pondering that too much. And then everybody's pretty much going their separate ways or whatever for the new year, the Lunar New Year. And they finally, Yuwen and Suh-chun finally have sex with each other, which was funny because basically as soon as Yuwen like sank down on him, Suh-chun climaxed again. Basically. And he was embarrassed, you know, but of course, Yuwen was trying to explain to him scientifically, like, I mean, well, it's been a minute, so this is going to happen. And that is very much true. And then, of course, they slept with each other again. And just for the, you know, edited version for YouTubers, it was actually good. Of course, the first time hurt like hell, but the second time was great. It was mind-blowing, if you ask Yuwen. So I was glad that they had, you know, a good sexual encounter, because of course there was the very, very first one, which they didn't go all the way, but the guy finished fast and Yuwen had to finish himself. And then the second experience, which hurt like hell. So I was glad things worked out. And it was quite interesting that in that moment, they both ended up learning. I'm sorry, they didn't both end up learning, but they both ended up confessing that they love each other. Now, of course, Suh-chun already did this, but the important thing was that Yuwen actually said it back this time. And he finally came to the conclusion that, yes, Suh-chun is the one for him. So good for him on, you know, just solidifying his feelings and not questioning it anymore. Let's see the other thing that I wanted to mention. Oh, so then we got onto Jinxing, and, you know, they wrapped up filming and stuff a lot sooner than he thought. I was actually really glad for him. Of course, regardless of how I feel about Jinxing as a character, romantically speaking, I am glad to hear that he made lots of connections with people that are going to potentially help him in his career, you know, because sometimes we do certain things. I mean, not saying this is fully the case because he learned from his father, but sometimes we do things because we lack purpose and we're trying to fill holes where there are voids. And not to say that him having this work would change him from a fuckboy, but it would make it easier for if he's so busy and working and stuff, it could be easier for him to not be one. I mean, it could also just be easier for him to be one and sleeping with the people he's working with, but that's a bad idea. And I think he cares enough about what he wants to do for a living that he won't do that. So I was, glad for him on that front. And I was even proud of him for resisting sleeping with Kong Yu, because as soon as he invited him to sleep in his room, I was like, oh my God, are they going to sleep together? I mean, they shared a kiss, but it's whatever. He stopped himself. So I was proud of him for that. And then just in case anyone wants to know, because he made the 135,700 yuan, that is translated to 19,091 US dollars. That's a lot of money for just about a month of work. I would love to make that much money in barely a month. Anyway, so then we have him getting home to Riverbay Road and seeing that Zhang Weize is still there. Zhang Weize was actually talking to Whiskey and in his girl form. So, he hurried up and got out of that and everything. And then we learned that, Chang Jinxing is considering returning to school to further his studies, in which both of them admit that they lied about being students in school. So to me, I don't necessarily think it's a bad idea to go back to school, but at the same time, I don't necessarily think it's needed per se. It's kind of one of those things where a lot of times people say experience is the best teacher. And what he could learn in 4 years of gaining experience and just being in the field compared to going to school and focusing on that, I feel would just be astronomically different. Nevertheless, I don't knock him for wanting to return to school. This is just showing that he's serious about it. Does it mean it's the route he has to take? No, it doesn't. But at least he's showing that he's truly serious about it. Which I have to say, this whole conversation with Chang Jinxing and Zhang Weize was just so weird to me. And it was even more weird when Zhang Weize found out he acted, and then he was like, oh, so what do you want to do for a living? I was kind of like, really? Zhang Weize, where have you been? Like, I mean, am I wrong? I thought it was pretty clear that Chang Jinxing wanted to do photography. I mean, the guy has his camera around him and is taking pictures all day, every day. He's had several gigs where he's doing this. Now, don't get me wrong. Could he be doing this and it's just a hobby, or could he be doing this, but it's still not the career he wants? Yeah, sure. But I mean, I don't know. It was just, I don't know. To me, that was weird. Maybe I'm just overthinking it, but I was just like, do you really not know? Or what? Never mind. Anyway, moving forward. So we finally get a little bit on Zhang Weize's life story. And I really don't want to say any comments about it at this time, but all I can say is, so we know that when he was younger, he wanted to be a girl, and he grew up. He had a mother and a father and 2 sisters. He was the youngest. He was doted on, but his father was always away sailing. So therefore, he was raised by his mother and his 2 older sisters, which meant that he was a bit more feminine. And this was something for him to be bullied by. And we have him, I guess, starting to be a trans character in the story, but then not. Like, all of that just stopped. I'm not saying this as indefinite. You can hear the question in my tone. I'm not sure. Like, it stopped. And at this current moment, sometimes he doesn't know whether he's male or female. So in his confusion, I am also confused. And I'm hoping that somewhere along the line in these last, how many pages do we have left? Approximately 200 pages, that he gets more clarity on himself and who Zhang Weize is, But I do appreciate that Chang Jinxing was at least like, I mean, at the end of the day, you're you. Like, whether you're a girl, whether you're a boy, Zhang Weize is Zhang Weize. Like, that's who you are. So anyway, going forward, it was interesting. There was page 167. Oh my gosh. When Jinxing was compared to the guy that he liked in high school, and it said that Jinxing was offended to be compared to this guy. He would never raise his hand to anyone, no matter the circumstances. But to me, that really spoke volumes as to how Jung Weize felt about how he was treated by Jinxing. Because as he said, because it's one thing to say, oh, you were a playboy like that guy. But clearly there are things that you have said and things that you have done that would make him put you in the same category as someone who was physically violent with him. Even though that is something you have never done, your actions have placed you in the same category. And so even though it may be offensive, at the end of the day, it's like you kind of put yourself in that place for Jung Weize. Have you hit him? No. But you have emotionally abused him, you know, so in his mind, it could be like, if y'all were together, would it only be a matter of time before you hit him, you know? So that was something interesting that I thought came up anyway. And then, you know, we have Jinxing going ahead and sharing his story about how his father was physically violent with his mother, and then it essentially left him hanging and wouldn't even let him go to college, which I don't know how that turned to be a thing, but anyway. But so that's why he's so against, you know, physical violence, because he saw it for himself, which, you know, happens a lot. But again, it ties in closely. Like, it's just interesting how that worked out, how Jung Weize, I won't say pegged him, but kind of put him under the same umbrella as that boy. And knowing that Jung Weize's father was abusive, this is a path that he could have taken as well, you know? So it's not far-fetched. We can choose to go left or right, you know? He just decided to go right instead of left. And then, of course, you know, Jinxing is like, his father was a playboy, and so is he. You know, why did we grow up to become the people we hate? So one of the things that I wanted to mention that I just found extremely odd was Jung Weize and his responses while Jinxing was telling his story, because they were very bothering to me. Like, every time Jinxing said something, he was like, oh, you were handsome then. Oh, he was handsome too. Oh, was your father handsome? Oh, you must have been very good looking. And to me, it was just like, why are you focusing so much on this? You know, like, that's been your problem from the very beginning. You fell for Jinxing's looks before anything else. And I'm not saying he wasn't listening to Jinxing, but just considering that he kept mentioning that in particular, I'm like, dude, are you even listening to him? And so, like, some of the responses that I gave as Jinxing they were just me, because I didn't know how Jinxing was replying. But, you know, I'm trying to remember, like, on whatever page it was, when he was like, you know, was he really handsome? And then Jinxing was just like, yeah, or something like that. And then even, like, he asked, you know, between him and the childhood friend that went to Australia, he asked, Jung Weize asked, who topped? And he was like, we switched. And I'm just like, why is that relevant? Like, I don't know. It was just so weird. I don't know if I'm necessarily upset with the writing or if I'm just upset with Jung Weize for being so weird in that moment. But the only reason I responded the way I did as Jinxing is because even after that, when he was like, we switched, he immediately switched subjects and was like, let's go and set off some fireworks later. So to me, it was like he was done with this conversation. I was done with the conversation. But speaking of going outside to set fireworks, one thing that I do have to say is that, yet again, I became upset with Jinxing. Why did I become upset with him? Because he offered for them to go outside and set fireworks together. And I'm not saying this from like a romantic thing, just literally two friends spending time together. This is what y'all were supposed to be doing together. And yet you ended up making a phone call to an ex from 8 years ago, someone you haven't spoken to 7 years, and spending time chatting it up with him, leaving Jung Weize to his lonesome. And as soon as that whole good friend came out, then Jung Weize immediately essentially removed himself because he already knew his place, if you will. And so I didn't really like that. Like if you're going to invite someone to spend time with you, then you should be dedicating that time. Like, you could have called this guy afterward. You could have called this guy tomorrow, or you could have called him for a second and been like, I just wanted to say this, but let's schedule another time to talk. I just felt that was very rude and I did not like it. And again, it just goes back to the whole abusive aspect for how he treats Jung Weize. And again, I'm not even speaking necessarily from the romantic perspective, but even like as a friend, you know, so far, I don't see Chang Jinxing as a good friend. He is the most handsome guy, but I don't give two craps. He is the most ugly guy to me, like seriously. So, I think I have ranted enough. So let's just, those are my thoughts, and we'll see what happens next in, you know, the chapters or whatever. Everybody's doing what they're doing. And yeah. Okay. That's it. You guys enjoy the rest of your day or night, and 我爱你们.